Welcome back to American Sunrise. We appreciate you being here with us. We also want to invite you to join the conversation on Getter and Rumble as well as YouTube. But it is now time to take the political pulse of America. And the beat today has to do with the third and final day of the Pentagon's highly controversial Media Day. It's a 3-day showcase that was built around a new and drastically reduced press corps. The event follows the mass walkout back in October when most mainstream reporters turned in their credentials in protest of War Secretary Pete Hegseth's new rules for the media. Well, this week, the only journalists inside the building are the ones who signed on to those new rules. It's a pledge for reporters to discuss what they plan to publish with Pentagon officials. And today's closing session marks the first sustained multi-day press access under this new policy, making it a major test of the Pentagon's commitment to transparency. Joining me now to discuss all of this is RAV's chief White House correspondent, Brian Glenn. He is actually at the White House. Also, RAV congressional correspondent, Benny Ray Harmony, and the host of Breaking Point here on RAV, David Zere. The two of them are at the Pentagon. Hello to all of you. David, want to start with you. You, of course, had an opportunity to get a question in at the Pentagon press event yesterday. Here's your question, and then we'll talk on the other side.
Hi, David Zere, Real America's Voice. It's great to be here. I want to know if you can confirm any additional National Guard deployments under Title 10 in additional cities, and have any governors reached out for help under Title 32 as well? And how do you determine how National Guard troops, how many are armed?
Great question. So I don't have anything to announce at this time in terms of new deployments, but I can tell you that our mission set is critical. We are keeping American cities safe all across this country, and we are going to remain committed to that. These missions aren't going to stop in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in D.C. We understand the urgent threat that is facing many of these cities, and the National Guard is proud to step in alongside our law enforcement partners to help with that. And I can confirm that everybody in D.C. is now armed, and a lot of our D.C. National Guardsmen are now also doing joint patrols with members of the police department here in D.C. So their safety is, of course, top of mind, and we will continue to make sure that they're able to do their jobs in keeping all of our great Americans safe across our cities.
David, I wanted to play that soundbite in your question off the top to really illustrate a point that you made earlier, is that even under these new rules, it's not like the reporters who are in the room are offering up softball questions to the administration. You guys are still asking the tough questions and the questions that Americans want answers to.
Yes, and since I asked that question, there was an announcement from the Department of War that 220 or so troops, I believe from Arkansas and Oklahoma, are on their way to D.C. to reinforce the 2,200 troops that are already here. But I'm going to ask some more tough questions, like about the accountability for the Afghanistan early withdrawal, reinstatement of our troops from the VACs, shipbuilding for the Navy, and the release of the DEI task force report and other things. So, and I think the feeling in the room here is that people will ask tough questions.
Benny Ray, it's so appropriate for you to be at the Pentagon today as well, in that tomorrow the admiral who oversaw that now controversial September 2nd strike on that drug boat in the Caribbean will be briefing members of the House Armed Services Committee as well as the Senate Armed Services Committee. What's the buzz both on Capitol Hill as well as there at the Pentagon in terms of what may come out of that briefing, if anything?
Yeah, Terrence, yesterday we sat down with Congresswoman Mary Miller as well as Congressman Tim Burchett and Michael Guest, who is on the Homeland Security Committee. And when we were talking about, Venezuela and what's happening at the Pentagon, specifically, I want to touch on this new media that's happening here at the Pentagon, because these members of Congress are here for it and they support it. Tim Burchett said, this is the new wave of Republicans. This is the new wave of journalism, is these independent sources and where we get our information is online. But this Venezuela conflict that we're talking a lot about, Terrence, there's actually, I believe, I want to say it's today, there is a hearing in the Homeland Security Committee, and we could potentially hear some stuff regarding when it comes to law enforcement and defending our nation. But overall, a lot of these members, Terrence, also I want to touch on Tim Burchett. He said yesterday, Congress is not doing their job when it comes to this, and he kind of put them on blast and said, he doesn't plan on them doing anything. So it's going to be a toss-up as to how we see Congress operating as we move forward. But we do expect to hear some good stuff here at the Pentagon today that we can report back.
All right, looking forward to that. Let's go over to the White House where Brian Glenn is this morning. By the way, Brian, you're shining brightly as you always do. Good morning to you. I'm curious what the reaction is there. Yeah, I'm all about the compliments this morning. I'm curious about the reaction to what's happening over at the Pentagon and these new, I'm going to use the word restrictions, if you will, that have been put in place. You were telling us yesterday that the White House is also clamping down a little bit on the media and access just to make sure that this is streamlined. So this is really kind of a thing that's across the board. It's not just the White House, as I understand it. Excuse me, not just the Pentagon.
No,
Excuse
it's
me,
not.
as I understand it.
No, that's correct. No, it's not, Terrence. It wasn't. But about 3 weeks ago, when a memo was passed out that in order to have access to what is described as upper press, that's where you have Karen Levitt, Stephen Chung's office, and others up there, you have to have an appointment. You have to fill out a brief form, request a time, and get that approved. Now, before that, anyone that's a member of the press here that's at the White House could simply go in the briefing room, go into lower press, see the folks there, and then go up to upper press and pop in whenever. And of course, they had some reports where some journalists were up there secretly recording some video and audio and kind of snooping around when someone wasn't at their desk. And so in order to crack down on that, they've made it where you have to have an appointment to get up to upper press. And that's very similar to what they did at the Pentagon. Often we've been told that you had reporters roaming the halls of the Pentagon, simply maybe getting a hold of someone walking by and saying something casually to the media, and the media taking that and blasting it out as a statement. So I think the steps they've taken here, Terrence, I'm a supporter of getting an appointment to go to upper press. It doesn't bother me to have to get an appointment to go see Karen Levitt or Stephen Chung. It just doesn't. I am a supporter of making sure that we don't have the media sneaking around the White House, perhaps leaking information that's not public privilege. So I'm supportive of that. And of course, it all comes down to the briefing room seating chart. We've been told for months that a change was coming in that. Perhaps Real America's Voice and other conservative outlets that have not normally been a part of the press bowl would have a seat there in the briefing room, waiting to see if that happens. So there has been some changes here, and I think it's all for the good, to be quite honest with you.
I'm sure your knees are hoping for a seat as opposed to having to stand there in the very back of the room for the 45 minutes or hour-long press briefing. I typically am sitting here in the studio, so I feel you, Brian. David Zere, I want to get back to you because I'd like to get an idea of who is in the room for this new media. The term, obviously, new media is what's being used now there at the Pentagon. We saw yesterday that Matt Gaetz was one of the people asking questions. Talk about some of the other outlets and some of the other notable names who may be in the room during these briefings who traditionally haven't necessarily been there.
We have Jim Hoft here from the Gateway Pundit. I'm looking at Jordan Conradson, White House correspondent also for the Gateway Pundit, among others here. And we have this guy from GCAP, the news, which is great. They're a maritime reporter on all the events going on in commercial military shipping. By the way, this is about to start here.
Yeah, we gotta wrap here, Terrence, but we will be coming to you some more throughout the day. We're about to hear from some people here.
All right, and we're thinking that Pete Hegseth is getting ready to do a media availability, so we, of course, will have more on that. All right, Brian, it's just you and me, brother, so it's like the good old days. Let's talk about what's happening at the White House today. I was looking at the president's schedule. It didn't seem to be as full of a schedule as it normally is, but then again, after yesterday's what I would call a marathon meeting with all of his cabinet secretaries, I think all of us need a little bit of a breath.
Yeah, we do. Well, President Trump has been working nonstop. Matter of fact, according to some of the work logs here, it's 12 plus hours a day he works. Now, we have a different shot for you today. Right behind me is the entrance to the West Wing, and we don't have one of our service members out there, which indicates that he is not in the West Wing. He is still in the residence portion of the White House. But we do have two beautiful Christmas trees set outside that door. Now, coming up at about 11 o'clock, President Trump gets his intelligence briefing that takes place here. And then around 2:30, he has another major announcement. Now, if you recall, yesterday's major announcement had to do with the Trump account, which is essentially a kind of a 401k, if you will, for anyone born within the term of President Trump's second term here, and of course those that are eligible 18 years and under. We can get some more details on that a little bit later, but that was his major announcement yesterday. Now, I don't have any speculation on what that major announcement is today, so we'll have to stick around and find out. That takes place at 2:30 today, and that will be in the Oval Office.
Hey, and Brian, just really quickly before I let you go, I want to preview something that I believe is happening tomorrow, Friday, I believe tomorrow. The commander-in-chief, as I'm going to name him, is also set to welcome some leaders from Africa, two warring African nations, and they're going to officially sign a peace deal, is my understanding, which, again, I think just cements how President Trump has been instrumental in bringing peace around the world.
It has been. You know, Terrence, he often claims he's ended 8, 9 wars. This was one of them that he really prides himself on. And, of course, the continuous struggle between Ukraine and Russia continues. We've had delegates from the U.S. try to wrap that up. But, yes, big day tomorrow. Once again, the president of peace will address two nations, and they'll come together, and we'll solidify that tomorrow. That happens, I think, around 2:30 local time, so stay tuned for that as well.
All right, Brian. Brian Glenn reporting for us from the White House. Always good to see you, Brian. We'll talk to you later on in the day.
Thank you, Terrence.
Of course. We're going to take a quick break, folks. When we come back, though, Senator Chuck Schumer accusing War Secretary Pete Hegseth of lying and hiding critical information. The details ahead. First, though, a message from David Brody on what you need to know about Crypto.com.
You know, Trump Media just signed a massive $6.4 billion deal with Yorkville Acquisition Corp and Crypto.com, which is the crypto platform trusted by millions of users worldwide. They're teaming up to acquire up to $6.4 billion in CRO to establish America's first publicly traded CRO treasury, the Trump Media Group's CRO strategy. Once complete, this new company is going to be the largest publicly traded CRO holder out there. Well, if you're ready to join the crypto revolution, here's what you do. You head to Crypto.com today and be part of this historic move. Once again, Crypto.com. Do not wait. For more information on this proposed business combination, also check out Yorkville Acquisition Corp's public filings.